decimal that ends? 4.78. Look at that. Ended right there after the 8.
Wow.
Irrational. Decimals that don't end. Decimals that don't repeat. For example, our friend Pi.
This is 5 followed by 2, 6, 5, 3, 5,
learning these
diameter. 7, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, OMG, K, 2, C. Actually, I don't know the rest.
Oh my gosh.
I remember listening to that song in hybrid.
Loves math.
Good
Okay,
job.
now.
If I recall, you
Zoom. Those aren't even the right ones.
Bro, God.
Even if you have things written from before, you should add this new thing in. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Something called a perfect square goes on the rational side. Even if you have your notes, you didn't write that before and you should write it now. And something called a not perfect square goes on the irrational side. Perfect squares have a lot to do with squares. Preston, did you add this perfect square thing in? Awesome. Perfect squares have a lot to do with an actual square. Because if I had a square that was 5 by 5, what is the area? Good. What if I had a square that was 8 by 8?
2 by 2.
So now there's this really weird symbol that looks like a check mark. The square root of 25 undoes this area that we just did. It takes the area and goes backwards. The square root of 64 is 8 because it takes the area and goes backwards.
So it's basically just backwards area?
Yes. If it's a perfect square. Now think about this. What if I said the square root of 65?
8. Nope. 7, 6, 9. Would be a decimal?
8 times 8 is 64. 5 times 5 is 25. What times what is 65?
Decimal.
A decimal, which is not a square.
Which is a decimal, which is not a perfect square. And not only is it not a perfect square,
Square root of something.
Shy. Dang. It does not end or repeat. Thank you, Zach. So the perfect squares come from a square that was the same. 5 times 5, 8 times 8, 10 times 10, 22 times 22, 47 times 47. Perfect squares come from those numbers. Not perfect squares is something times itself. That's a decimal. And not only is it a decimal, it's a decimal that does not end and a decimal that does not repeat. Isabel.
How do you find the square root of something?
You're taking the... Just trying to think of another way to say it. What times itself got you that number? Square root of 16. What times itself got you 16? 4. Square root of 17. What times itself got you to 17?
How do you do it like that if there's...
I'll tell you. 4.123105626.
Well, how do you get
Well, I want you right now to just know it in your head on what's going to be the difference between a perfect square and a not perfect square.
Also, how do you
Well, I don't. That's what I'm trying to tell you right now. I want you to know it in your head. What times itself got you to 64? 8. What times itself got you to 65? No one knew that, which is fine. What I do want you to know is it's a really long decimal that does not end or repeat. Okay, try this. What's the square root of 100?
10.
10, because 10 times 10 got you to 100. What's the square root of 137?
No, so it's gonna be a fraction. I mean a decimal.
It's going to be a decimal
It's gonna be a fraction. That's gonna keep going.
that does not end or repeat. That's what I need you to know. What the actual number is, I don't need you to know that.
So is it mostly even numbers?
No. It is numbers that you multiply by itself to get a number. 4 times 4, 16. 5 times 5, 25.
Oh yeah. Okay.
6 times 6, 36. 7 times 7, 49. Do you see what I mean? What's the square root of 92? I don't need you to know any numbers except that it's not a perfect square. That's what I need you to know. That it's going to fit in this irrational side. What's the square root of 81?
9.
What? So fast! You know that it's in the rational side then. What's the square root of 4?
2.
So fast! It's in the rational side. What's the square root of 39?
Irrational. It's gonna be a decimal.
A never-ending, never-repeating decimal. Are we catching on to the difference? Who needs to ask more questions about the difference? So here's what a question would look like. This is one of those drag and drop kind of questions. I saw some people had it on their reading one too. So I'm looking for what squares would I drag to the rational side and what squares would I drag to the irrational side. Allison.
How would it go to the irrational side?
Pi 3.14159.
Pi followed by 2, 6, 5, 3, 5. Circumference over dollar. Actually, I don't have it.
Isabel
The fraction
goes to
rational.
good. Bryn.
The 6.39 goes to irrational.
6.399999999.
Oh, it's like rational.
Decimals that repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, rational.
Mhm.
That's like that.
Ellie.
5 is it's not square root of 6.
Square root.
The 5.
What is the square root of 5 anyway?
It's 2.5 decimals.
It's something. I can tell you it starts with a 2. What comes after that? A whole bunch of numbers. Drake?
We didn't do the 2 when we did the fraction. I was just gonna say
Ah!
2 going to rational.
Coco.
This is a whole number.
Oh, what's that point 0 doing there anyway? Distracting me. Get out.
It's just
So,
fancy.
rational versus irrational, we knew everything except those perfect square things. Who wants to ask more questions about this? What's the square root of 49?
7.
What's the square root of 50?
25. Oh, no.
No. Come on, guys.
25.
What times what is 50?
25.
Okay, sorry. What times itself is 50?
5.
5.
That'll be 25.
But it's gonna be a decimal.
Thank you. 7 point blah 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 blah. Square root of 81.
9. T1.
Square root of 99.
Oh, it's gonna, yeah. Decimal thing.
It's gonna be 9 point something 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 something. Getting the hang of it?
47.
One more thing that you have not thought about since about September.
Oh no.
Oh, what does that mean again?
It's just telling you that it's negative, right?
Nope.
Oh, I think,
An R.
gosh darn it. That was confusing, bro.
Oh, you're really close, Addison. It's gonna turn into a positive Y.
Because you have to draw a line and then add
Absolute value is what it's called. It was way back in chapter 1. I didn't have a note packet for you then, because I did not know how to teach hybrid, to tell you the truth. So, how far away from 0 is what absolute value means? How far away from 0? Hey, good work! -4 is 4 jumps away from 0, right, Preston?
Yes.
So this whole thing really just means 4. Plus 7. What do these bars mean?
Plus 2.
It's
Yeah,
2
absolute
minus
value.
9.
How far away from 0? 2 spots away. What do these bars mean? How far from 0? 2 minus 9.
Negative
7.
What do these bars mean?
How far away from 0?
which is 6. So it's 10 minus 6, which equals 4.
35 away from 0.
35
7.
divided by 7. 5.
5.
Yeah, yes.
There are some questions like that on the back because it's actually a really easy test question to get right as long as it's not stuck in the back of your brain with spiders on it. If it's in the front, fresh, it's a really easy one to get right. On the front, put your numbers in the right category. Rational numbers or irrational numbers.